This episode is sponsored by the Freedom Builder System. For just $57 a month, you can get my custom Biz Builder AI, plus membership in the Freedom Builder community. Think of it as having me, your personal business coach and corporate escape Sherpa, right in your pocket 24/7. Biz Builder AI is your business building tool with 5 Sherpas in one powerful tool. It's a coach in AI form that helps you choose the right idea, create offers, build your financial runway, and market yourself without the cringe. And the Freedom Builder membership gives you the training, community, and accountability to actually follow through. So you're never doing this alone. Think of it as clarity, tools, and support all in one for less than the cost of a dinner out and a fraction of what you'd spend on private coaching. Check the show notes for the link, and let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Gen X Remix, Midlife, Laughs, and Next Acts, the podcast for bold women who are ready to build a business that actually lights you up and escape corporate. Yes, always in that order. I'm your host, Tabatha Jones, the Corporate Escape Sherpa, helping midlife women design profitable businesses, rediscover their confidence, and finally build the next act that feels like freedom. My guest today is Terry Tateossen, founder of the House of Rose and living proof that it's never too late to reinvent yourself. At 42, Terry shed over 80 pounds, conquered emotional eating, and rebuilt her health, mindset, and business from the ground up. Now she helps other women navigate midlife transformations through nutrition, movement, mindset, and powerful retreats that reconnect them with strength and purpose. Today, we're diving into all kinds of things, including cougar puberty, that's what the kids are calling it out there on the gram, hormones, confidence, and how to stop self-sabotaging the version of you that's dying to come out. So grab your coffee, protein shake, or whatever. You know there's no judgment here. And let's get into it. Terry, welcome to the Gen X Remix. How is your day going so far?
Thank you, Tabatha. It's going fantastic.
Amazing. And before we started, I didn't ask you where you're located. Where are you in the world?
I am in New Jersey on the East Coast.
Okay, so winding the day down. I'm out here in California on the West Coast, so still got a little bit more daylight, but with this daylight savings, I think it's literally only a little bit left. All right. Well, as you know, I love hearing remix stories. So would you share your remix story with us?
I love what you call it, first of all, a remix story. So my remix story is, my gosh, there's so many. I started my journey in the corporate world. I transitioned into being an entrepreneur at about 26, 25, between 25 and 27. And I was on my own, basically building and growing companies one after the other in a serial type of manner. By the time I was 40, I found myself overworked, overstressed, overwhelmed, 80 pounds overweight, and just very unhappy with everything that a startup or a business requires for us to do, on top of having 2 children. And so I had my first kid at 30, second kid at 35. And by 37, I was still wearing maternity clothes. And so needless to say, I was not thrilled with that. On top of that, I started experiencing some strange symptoms that I had no explanation for. And eventually, I figured out it was perimenopause, but that was after it was too late. Once I became fully menopausal, that's when I realized that that was perimenopause. By 42, I'm about to turn 50 next year. And so my remix story is that at the age of 40, I decided to dump everything I was doing, professionally, personally, and restart. I had to relearn how to eat. I had to relearn how to move, how to stay in shape, how to prioritize my health, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health. I had to reprioritize how I spent my time and what I did for a living.
Wow, that is quite a story, and one that I know so many of us Gen Xers can relate to. I laugh when I went to my naturopath, who I've been seeing for a while. I said, I got woken up in the middle of the night by the sound of brakes slamming on. It just jolted me out of my sleep. And she's like, oh my gosh, what was it? I said, it was my metabolism coming to a complete stop at 40 years old. I'm like, I don't understand. And, you touched on perimenopause. I mean, we don't talk about that. We get the basic talk, as your girl about your body changes, but nobody talks about when you're approaching cougar puberty, as the kids are calling it these days, and how perimenopause affects your pretty much everything, hormones, body, mood, all of the things. And a lot of times, I know for myself, I was feeling like, am I just crazy? Like, what is happening? So I'm curious to know, for you, what that kind of felt like as you were starting that journey and realizing you wanted to make these changes.
Cougar puberty, huh?
That's what the kids are calling it.
Interesting. Yeah, so it started off with, and these were things I did not understand or realize were happening to me. I didn't know. I thought I was losing my mind, basically, and that something horrible was happening to me. But partially, it was because I was 80 pounds overweight. I barely slept. I ate unintentionally and randomly whatever I could get my hands on. And eventually it started catching up to me. So I ended up having two very severe panic attacks that I believed at the time were heart attacks, ended up in ER twice. I was told, you're kind of fat, you need to lose weight and go to a cardiologist just to make sure that you're not having any heart condition. But nobody really thought about perimenopause because I was supposedly too young, 37. Which is not that young, actually. That's about the time when perimenopause enters the arena for many of us, and that's not talked about enough, in my opinion. But that's generally what ended up taking place. And I didn't know I was in perimenopause, so I wasn't addressing that aspect of it. I did know, I could see clearly, I knew I was very overweight. So I went on to the mission of trying to lose weight, and I did that. I had hired a coach for that. I ended up really loving the process of resistance training, macro tracking, and just lifestyle in general. And that's when I decided, because it changed my life, right? It transformed my life in such a radical way where not only did I look better, but I felt better, that I completely pivoted and changed directions as far as my career and what I did for a living, and ended up getting certified as a coach myself. I completed the Harvard Medical School Lifestyle Coach Program and started coaching people, running retreats for women specifically to teach them about this particular lifestyle. And so that's the gist of it, but there's a lot.
There's a lot, right? There's so much to unpack when it comes to this topic in general. Oh my gosh, so good. So tell me a little bit now about the women that come to you for help. So I did check your website and saw you have all these fabulous retreats, but what is the thing that's driving women to you and saying, I've got to work with Terry?
So it's a lot of different things, right? So it's the fact that I wasn't in shape my entire life, right? It wasn't, it's the fact that I wasn't an athlete my entire life. I started all of this at the age of 40, and really started unpacking how the metabolism responds to resistance training, how your hormones respond to eating sufficient amounts of protein, how your mindset and your nervous system respond to having downtime and doing yoga and meditation and breath work and things like that. And so it's the final result, right? And it's knowing women seek out a coach because they are really smart and they are looking to shortcut the learning curve. Now, when you do get a coach that has gone through that path before you, you're able to kind of avoid a lot of the mistakes that I personally made during my journey. You don't have to learn those lessons on your own. You get a guide, you get a Sherpa that helps you navigate all those things, and you end up getting a result a lot faster. I wasn't that smart. I hired a coach at the very end, and I struggled so much in the beginning phases of this journey, where I finally kind of put my hands up and I gave up and I said, I need help, right? And so a lot of us don't necessarily reach that point where we admit that we need help and hire a coach. And that's why a lot of people quit. But smart people end up hiring smart coaches.
I agree. Those of us who walk the path, we can tell you what not to do because we did it all. That's so good. All right. And then you also mentioned that you do strength training and you talked about macros. Full transparency, I hired a coach to help me with that. And macros made me want to poke my eye out. I get it. I get tracking is important. But do you have simple strategies that you share with your client that maybe you can share with our listeners to help them maybe start getting on track, taking that one small action to start getting closer to that better life or that better outcome?
Yeah, so tracking macros is actually the opposite of what I teach. I teach to plan the macros, right? So plan your macros ahead rather than tracking them contemporaneously and trying to figure out how do you fit all these things into your daily budget of calories. It's essentially tracking calories, but you're also looking at what the composition of those calories are, how much protein, how many carbs, how much fat. And when you have a goal and your goal is investing into your success, you would strategically plan them ahead. So what I teach clients to do is create 2 menus, right? So 7-day menu for 2 weeks and alternate them as needed and repeat the same meals every day. In other words, if you have, let's say, 1,500 calories per day, you divide that up by 5, you have your 5 meals, you figure out what the composition is of those meals, and you enter them into your tracker in advance. So the night before, you know exactly what you're going to eat the next day. And there's no surprises. There's no intuitive eating. That didn't work for me. My intuition told me to eat the whole cake.
And
And
the tortilla chips. Yes.
yes. And so that, it was planning them ahead. That's really the key. And once you have done it for a bit of time, it does become second nature to know what a portion size looks like, how much protein is, let's say, in 120 grams of chicken breast and so forth. So that's generally my advice, is stick to really plain one ingredient parts of the meal, right? So broccoli, chicken, pasta, rice, things like that you can easily track rather than soups, because they're a little bit more advanced in terms of tracking.
Good point. And I love what you say about planning it in advance. I think that was probably the biggest blocker for me, was at the beginning of the day, scrambling to figure out how am I going to fit this much protein in, or how am I going to fit this much whatever in, and, cut the cheese. That doesn't sound right. Cut out the cheese. I got enough fat in the other things. And I learned, really quickly for me that it helps to always have just 2 packages. I have a chicken allergy, which is bizarre, high intolerance. So I pre-make ground turkey every week. So it's easy to just throw into a salad or throw into a whatever, throw it onto a low carb tortilla. And I've learned that preparing is really helpful, but I, along with most of our listeners, I'm sure, are going to take your advice to start that planning in advance, as far as planning what I'm going to eat the next day or early in the morning of, so it's less complicated and less stressful. It's a great tip.
And repeating, right? So repeating the meals that you like over and over and over again, because it's like a template, and it takes a lot of the decision-making fatigue out of the process.
Yeah, the easier we can make it, right? It's hard enough to make ourselves get to the gym and make ourselves do all the things. So it's like, just keep it as simple as possible. That's so good. I know as I was preparing for our conversation, I was thinking about, and as I was digging into your website, thinking about smart women who sabotage their goals, kind of a little self sabotage. Why do you think that we do it? We're smart, we're capable, we know what we're supposed to do, but we tend to get in our own way sometimes. Why do you think that happens?
Yes, I'm the poster child for that. If there's a way to sabotage something, I am all over it. Okay.
I preach into the choir here. I'm like, I know. We all do it.
It's very normal, right? And it happens to everybody. And my conclusion after 10 years of paying attention to this type of thing is that the smart women start accepting the fact that they are going to sabotage themselves in some way or another. It's natural. It happens. 95% of our thoughts in our brain are negative and they repeat every single day, right? And so the smart women start acknowledging and accepting and becoming aware of this. It's a natural part of being a human being. And what they end up doing is, instead of following through on the perfectionistic thoughts, or giving up, or beating themselves up, or blaming themselves, or feeling guilty or inadequate, or whatever all those things are that follow self-sabotage, is they start coming up with strategies on how to mitigate that every time that it happens, right? So we start paying attention, becoming aware. Oh, okay, so every time event X happens, I end up having an entire pint of Haagen-Dazs. Now, this is just framing it into the nutritional sphere. And so when we start noticing this thing, oh, okay, so when that happens, I get emotionally upset. Let's say some event occurs, I end up using food as a coping mechanism. So instead of demanding that I never touched a Haagen-Dazs ever again in my whole life, right? Perfectionism. Instead, I'm going to work with myself and figure out how can I substitute the Haagen-Dazs with something that's going to be more aligned with my goals. So can I maybe make my own ice cream that's 300 calories rather than 1800 calories? And then I can kind of use that time and that bridge and that space I create for myself to unpack the feelings of why am I looking for the Haagen-Dazs, and kind of process those traumas or those patterns or those habits, or maybe those old stories that we tell ourselves that have been living in our minds for decades, and just kind of go through that and process that. That's generally my opinion. I think everybody does it. They're old stories. It's old programming. It's things that we have learned during our teenage years or maybe our toddler years on how to cope with things. And they just pop up. They're old programs that no longer serve us, that we have outgrown, but they're still ruminating because we've never really cleaned them up. And so, yeah, it's life.
It is absolutely life. And there's so many times too where I've done this in the past, and I've got friends that have done it, where you're eating so healthy and making all the right choices, and then you have a little slip off the wagon. And in my house, it's ice cream or tortilla chips. I will eat the chips till the salsa is gone. So we just don't keep them at the house. But just that little slip, and then it's like, oh, screw it. You know what? I'll just start again on Monday. And I know I have seen that happen where the Monday that's the right Monday never actually comes. So I know that we are all very much capable of self-sabotage in all ways, but especially in our eating. There's just so many tasty options out there. So kind of shifting a little bit, kind of going back to the hormone changes and the things that are really impacting can be really impacting to our health and our mood and all those things. As midlifers, sometimes we start feeling that kind of lost my spark. I'm not feeling as confident. I'm not feeling as me as I did. What do you recommend to help in that space? Maybe it's hormone balancing or something along those lines, but what are your recommendations to help start getting that spark back again?
Great question. The first thing that I did, and I do this on a regular basis. So I'm going to be 50 next year. And every now and then I do feel like I'm losing my spark, right? And it ebbs and flows, energy ebbs and flows. I probably had periods in my life in my 20s where I felt like I was losing my spark, in 30s and 40s. It happens all the time, right? And so the question is, ask questions, be curious, what is it that you're feeling that makes you think you're losing your spark, right? So what are some of the signs or signals that you're getting that make you feel that way? Because it could just be a mood, right? It could just be a season of life. It could just be your mindset. It's not necessarily, doesn't have to be hormones. It could be, but it could also be how we're perceiving things or how we're looking at things. And then go from there, right? So start with lifestyle first. Are you bored? Are you unhappy? Do you feel like you're stuck in a career, relationship, or situation, or whatever it may be, that a body, right, that you're unhappy with, and you're just not feeling excited about anything, right? And so emotionally and mentally, and as far as mindset is concerned, I would start there and then really ask honest questions. Am I doing everything I can for my mental health, my emotional health, and my physical health? What can I do today, right now, right this minute, to invest into myself, into the future? Because the things that we feel today are not a result of what we did yesterday. They're a result of how we have been living our lives in the last few decades, right? And so all of that accumulates, and one day you wake up and you're like, holy shit, like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? What is this about? Why am I here? Does it matter? Like, what, And so it didn't happen overnight. And the result of the work doesn't happen overnight either. It's not a light switch either. You can't wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden everything's going to change. You have to consistently show up for yourself, consistently work on your own awareness, your own body, your health, and so forth. It's so easy to blame hormones because they're these invisible little suckers running around and they're causing, all this damage to us. But is it really?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of easy to blame. And so I love your point about really just taking an inventory kind of what's going on and where are the feelings coming from. To your point, a lot of stuff that we have in us, for some reason, it starts bubbling up again around midlife. And it could be, to your point, things that we heard when we were 10 or something someone said to us, I don't know, maybe at a business meeting 10 years ago or whatever it is, that just comes back up. And, the cool thing, I guess, at this age is that most of our friends are going through the same thing. So we can have adult conversations about it, kind of work through it. I've learned to definitely lean on my female friends for those types of things to figure out like what is going on. And then, fortunately, I've had the ability to keep a naturopath in my life so that I can keep an eye on my hormones. When I start feeling like, oh, is it just me today or is it this? I can kind of get my checkups and figure out where we're at. But so important. And understanding also that our bodies are changing and our faces are changing. And sometimes those things that we aren't quite ready for, maybe aren't really ready to address, I think they tend to impact us a little bit more negatively sometimes too than we expect. Are you finding that as you're working with clients?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I just, personally, I can only talk about what I'm experiencing personally. I just don't feel that way for whatever reason. I am so happy and excited with what the future holds for me. And then when I get bored, I just go and cause some trouble somewhere. I make some plans that, some crazy trek somewhere in some forest in the other side of the world or something just wild, right? Something that
Yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily expect from a 50-year-old.
That's
And
exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, just stick your middle finger out and just go.
Thank you. That's what I'm like. We need to remind ourselves we are Gen X. We are feral. We can do what we want to do, and we don't need to give an F about anything. Just go be happy.
Feral, I like that. I am
Be kind and be happy.
most definitely feral. And I think that's so liberating that there comes a time, and this is something I talk about often. I used to live so afraid all the time, afraid of if I did XYZ, how is that going to impact me? Right. Oh, this is not really a good direction, even though my heart tells me that I want to do this thing here. Right. But, something holds me back. And eventually I think we end up being so sad and depressed and unhappy is because we have denied our very own nature for so many years, for so many decades. We spend our lives being someone else or what someone else expects us to be, or people pleasing our whole lives, right? Just to be able to fit into this particular ideal that we have been given, we inherited, or we've been assigned this particular role. And then, yeah, you wake up at 50 and you're like, what in the F is going on? No wonder, right? Your soul is unhappy. And so I love talking about it because, you know, so what? We're aging. Everybody is. Everybody's going to get old. End of story. If you're female, you're going to go through menopause. You're not going to be able to reproduce at some point in your life. That's a fact, right? So whether we're depressed about it or not depressed about it and accepting it, I think is the difference between how we're going to live the rest of our lives, right? Are we going to be sad and lonely and scared and miserable from 50 and onward? Or do we take our power back and say, stick your middle finger out and go do whatever the F you want to do?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to answer to anybody anymore.
Exactly. I love when people ask me now, well, why would you do that? Or why are you doing that? I'm like, because I'm a grown ass woman and I want to. Like, if it doesn't go well, that's fine. I tried, I figured it out. And I love to recommend too that trying new things. I love that you said going and taking a hike in a forest across the world or wherever you want to go. Like, try something new. And one week I was feeling a little blah and I took up pickleball and aqua Zumba. Who knew that was a thing? But, things bounce a little less under the water. So it's a little more comfortable. But just having fun. And I've got a couple of friends that want to go do a pole fitness class. I'm like, yeah, I will. I mean, I'm going to be dressed, obviously, but like, why not? Who cares? If everybody in the class is 22, I don't care. And we have to get to that point where we take it back, because if we don't now, when are you going to do it? And when I hear women say, oh, I can't put that on, I don't have the body for it, or I've got this fat. I'm like, it's fat. It's not cancer. It's okay. Like, just let's wear a different outfit. Let's put on something else that makes you feel good. Who cares if it's a size bigger? If you feel good in it, go out and do it. And let's work on getting back to where you want to be. Like, it doesn't have to be, none of this stuff in aging has to stop you from doing what you want to do.
100%. And I'm so tired of having our value be tied to our looks. right? Having this ideal of what we're supposed to look like and what is considered the beauty standard, it's all superficial stuff. And so to me, it's like, okay, great. So somebody likes how you look, somebody doesn't. You're never going to please every single person. Somebody thinks you look great. Somebody thinks, man, she's got, a little too much muscle, or she's got her quads are too big, or her butt is too bubbly, or it's this or that. Like somebody's going to say something about something at all times. Right. And like, earlier, somebody's going to call you a cougar because you're menopausal. I'm like, whew, okay.
You wish.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So funny. It's true. And I had a mentor who said something one time that stuck with me forever. And that is, what other people think about you is none of your business.
Right.
And I was like, that's really good, because most of it is just stories in my head based on a face they made or a noise they made or whatever it was, right? Or maybe their own just face. I don't know. But just remembering that it's none of my business. What my business is caring about myself, loving myself enough, no matter where I'm at or what I'm looking like. And if we could get women in this phase of life to start thinking more like that and putting themselves out there and taking the risk that they want to take, so they are not living with regrets in the future, what a beautiful place it would be, right? Just so much happiness.
Yeah, somebody asked me the other day, well, don't you wish you were 20 years old? And actually, I have this conversation regularly with somebody I know. We hold very opposing views on this. And what this person says to me is, don't you wish that you were 20 years old? And my answer always is abso-effing-lutely.
Hell no.
Right. And so this person says, well, that's BS, because why would you not? Why would you not want to be 20 years old again? And my answer is always like this. My 20s were a nightmare. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no self-esteem. I struggled quite a bit. And it's taken me 30 years to get to this place where I feel confident in who I am. I have an identity that I'm proud of. I have integrity with myself. I don't care about people pleasing others. And I know what my purpose is. I'm living my passion. And so I absolutely do not want to revert back to that, character number one of my video game here, the movie, the beginning character, because I worked really hard to get here. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 30 years are going to be like. But, would I want to have the 20-year-old's body? No, because I'm happy inside, internally. And even if I had right now a 150-year-old's body, I would still feel very content and centered with who I was, because to me, the body is just the body, and everybody's going to get old, and that's okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And so with you, I would not want to do 20 again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, this is so good. So, Terry, if our listener is sitting there today thinking, I would love to learn more about Terry, how can they connect with you?
You can find me on the website. Our website is thehouseofrose.com, or on Instagram, how good can it get?
Perfect. We'll share those links in the show notes, so our listener and viewer, we're on YouTube too, they can connect with you. And then, do you have any parting words of advice or inspiration?
Absolutely. If there's something that you want to do, if there's something that's calling to you and you're just not sure, you're afraid maybe, or there's a lot of negative thoughts that are looping around, take a chance, open your mind and your heart to it, and the universe will follow.
Oh, beautifully said. Thank you so much for stopping by and visiting us today on the Gen X Remix. Terry, we look forward to supporting you and hearing from you more in the future.
Thank you, Tabatha, so much. I really appreciate you.
Wow, that was an incredible conversation with Terry. I love her reminder that midlife isn't the end of our story. Friends, it's your remix. If today's episode lit a spark for you, be sure to connect with Terry at thehouseofrose.com or on Instagram at howgoodcanitget. Both of those links will be in the show notes. And if you're ready to start your own next act, one that gives you freedom, clarity, and direction, check out my Freedom Builder system with BizBuilder AI. It's where smart midlife women learn to build before they bounce and create businesses that actually work. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Gen X Remix today. Until next time, friend, be bold, stay feral, and do whatever the F you want. Take care.